Tear gas clouds drift through olive groves as Israeli soldiers advance toward Palestinian demonstrators in the hills between Kfar, Qaddum and Beit. It is Friday, the 7th of November, 2025. What began as a local protest against settlement expansion quickly escalates into a violent confrontation between villagers and the Israeli military. Soldiers fired tear gas canisters and rubber bullets to disperse the crowd. Protesters retreat through the trees, waving Palestinian flags and shouting slogans against land seizures. Several are overcome by gas. One man is carried away after being struck. The villages of Kfar, Qaddum and Beit, both in the northern West Bank, have become flashpoints in the broader struggle over land and settlement growth. Residents say the rally was sparked by settlers seizing farmland within areas officially classified as Area B, territory under Palestinian civil control, but Israeli Security Authority under the Oslo Accords. Over the past year, settler violence has surged across the West Bank. United Nations monitors report that October 2025 was the worst month for such attacks since record-keeping began in 2006 amid the continuing war in Gaza. Farmers here describe an atmosphere of fear and defiance as protests are met with increasing force. Video from the scene shows Israeli soldiers in formation firing successive rounds of tear gas as demonstrators scatter through the olive orchards. The confrontation leaves behind injured villagers and lingering smoke over the terraces. Among those leading the protest is Hussein Hamada, mayor of Beit, who tells reporters, "We came to prove that this land is ours, passed down from generation to generation. There is no way we would allow them to seize it. We are staying here. As long as the olive trees remain, we will remain." His words reflect a determination shared by many rural communities that see the protests as a defence of ancestral farmland, as well as a rejection of what they call creeping annexation by settlers. Nearby soldiers move between olive trees while others take positions on the slopes above the valley road. Protesters regroup, chanting "Free, free Palestine." First responders wearing medical vests rush to assist those suffering from gas inhalation. One man pours water over his face, struggling to breathe. By mid-afternoon, the road is covered with spent shells and stones. For Israel's military, the area is designated a security zone adjoining settlements the international community regards as illegal. The army routinely defends such operations as measures to maintain order and prevent violence. Palestinian officials, however, accuse the forces of protecting settlers and enforcing de facto expansion. Muayyad Shaaban, head of the Wall and Settlement Resistance Commission, describes the day's events. Today in Beit and Kfar Qaddum, there was a march to remove a settlement outpost located in areas classified as Area B. You can see yourself the settler violence and the repression by the occupation forces who are joining the settlers by using gunfire and tear gas. However, the residents of both villages insist to remove this outpost from Area B. His remarks highlight Palestinian claims that military protection enables settlers to consolidate control of disputed land. The commission he leads documents new outposts and land confiscations, providing data frequently cited by international agencies. As the confrontation unfolds, witnesses say a group of settlers is seen standing on a nearby hill, observing the clashes from land they had fenced off weeks earlier. Israeli soldiers position themselves between the settlers and the approaching crowd, firing gas to keep demonstrators away. By late afternoon, the shouting subsides, replaced by the sound of coughing and the hiss of dispersal grenades. Medical volunteers treat several cases of gas suffocation and one confirmed rubber bullet injury. Despite the chaos, residents insist the protests will continue weekly until the newly erected outpost is dismantled. For local farmers, the protest is rooted in personal loss. Mohi Ishtewi, a farmer from Kfar Qaddum, explains. "We are participating in the march because we were shocked on October 25th when settlers came and cut down 20 olive trees that date back 70 years. We were shocked because the trees are in Area B and on fertile land." His account echoes dozens of similar reports across the West Bank, where settlers have targeted olive groves during harvest season. The trees, often centuries old, are a key source of income and a cultural emblem for Palestinian families. The wider region remains tense. Humanitarian groups have warned that settler-related incidents, including attacks on civilians, vandalism of homes and road blockages, have more than doubled since early 2025. Diplomatic missions from the European Union, the United Kingdom and other governments have urged Israel to prosecute offenders and protect Palestinian residents. Israeli officials state that all acts of violence, whether by settlers or Palestinians, are investigated under the law. They argue that security forces face complex conditions in areas where armed clashes and protests often overlap. Still, the weekly demonstrations in Kfar, Qaddum and nearby villages have become symbols of resistance. Residents describe them as their only non-violent tool against the steady advance of settlements and road closures that limit access to farmland. As the day wears on, the landscape bears the marks of confrontation. Olive branches lie scattered across the dirt road. Black scorch marks dot the dry grass where gas canisters landed. Soldiers are seen withdrawing toward their vehicles, while settlers remain gathered on the hillside. The village loudspeaker calls people to return home, ending another Friday of unrest. Observers say the incident typifies the volatility of Area B, land that sits between full Israeli and Palestinian control, where overlapping authorities leave legal ambiguity, often resolved by force. Palestinian officials argue that this arrangement enables settlers to expand while shielding them from local enforcement. Rights groups such as B'Tselem and Yesh Din have documented what they describe as growing coordination between settlers and security forces during such incidents. They report that arrests following settler violence remain rare, while Palestinian demonstrators face regular detention. Israel rejects accusations of bias, asserting that forces act to prevent escalation and protect all civilians. The cumulative effect is a cycle familiar to residents. A protest begins, soldiers deploy, clashes follow, and each side issues statements of blame. The next week, it begins again. In Kfar, Qaddum, village committees organise the marches after Friday prayers. Residents carry flags, sometimes olive branches, and gather at the blocked road leading to the nearby Qaddum settlement. That road, closed since 2003, cuts off access to farmland that once sustained the community. For villagers, reclaiming it is both a practical and symbolic goal. This week's protest, joined by Beit residents, aimed to draw attention to the new outpost and to what organisers describe as the expansion of settler corridors linking hilltop communities. They accuse settlers of building caravans and tents on land owned by Palestinian farmers, then securing protection from the army once structures are in place. Under international law, the West Bank is considered occupied territory and settlements are deemed illegal. Israel disputes that classification, citing historical ties and security needs. The resulting legal and political stalemate leaves on the ground realities largely unchanged. As evening approaches, smoke still lingers over the fields. Local volunteers collect spent gas shells as evidence for human rights groups. Children peer from doorways as ambulances pass through narrow village lanes. For many here, Friday has become synonymous with confrontation. Despite fatigue and recurring injuries, village leaders say the protests will continue. Mayor Hamada repeats through a loudspeaker, "As long as the olive trees remain, we will remain." The phrase is picked up by the crowd before fading into the evening call to prayer. Regional analysts warn that the rise in settler activity threatens to inflame tensions even further. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has counted hundreds of new outposts and land seizures since early 2024. International mediators fear that unchecked expansion could derail security coordination between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, already strained by months of Gaza-related violence. For now, the disputed hillside near Kfar Qaddum remains under Israeli military control. Settlers continue to occupy the newly seized plot, while villagers vow to hold another march next Friday. Neither side shows any sign of backing down. The events of November 7th are part of a larger pattern, settlers expanding their footprint under military protection and Palestinian farmers returning to protest despite arrests and injuries. It is a struggle over geography as much as sovereignty, a contest waged one hill and one olive grove at a time. As night falls, the valley quiets. The air still smells of gas and smoke.
In the distance, the silhouettes of soldiers move back toward their vehicles. The lights of the settlement glimmer on the opposite ridge. The day ends without resolution.
The olive trees, some dating back generations, stand scorched but unbroken, a silent witness to another day of confrontation in the West Bank. The Israeli army has dispersed the Palestinian protest in Kfar, Qaddum and Beit Lid. Villagers vow to continue demonstrations against settlement expansion, as international monitors warn that settler-related violence has reached its highest level in nearly 2 decades.